Great. Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Alec Cooley. I'm a senior advisor here with Busch Systems, and I'll be your moderator for today's program, as I am for all of these webinars we do as part of our Green Thinking webinar series. If you're not familiar, we do these roughly on and off 6 or 7 times a year, every other month or so on average. And we hit a whole range of topics, always coming back in some way to waste reduction. But today's program we're going to be focusing very specifically on park and rec situations and how do we do recycling and litter prevention. If you've worked in this field for any length of time, you know that these are particularly tough challenges. Getting people to recycle correctly is hard and just about any situation, but especially in locations where you don't really have that control, the ability to interact with people, where there's an anonymity to it, it could be particularly difficult with both contamination and also obviously with litter. It's easy to get discouraged, but also from my experience, there is a method to the madness and understanding how people work. And while it's never possible to solve and permanently resolve some of these issues of contamination and litter, there are definitely many examples of communities that have figured out ways to address them to the point where they're manageable, and you can still have a successful recycling program and beautiful park locations. So with today's program, if we can go to the next slide, we're going to be hearing 2 different case studies. I'm excited for both of these, both examples of communities that they may not describe as having solved the problems themselves, but they've made substantial progress and they've been able to show how it works. So we're going to start off first with Meredith Gauthier, who is a Sustainability and Resilience Program Manager with the City of Austin's Parks and Recs Department, or PARD. And we're going to be hearing from her about how PARD has rolled out a recycling program across a whole 300 plus park system, and how they've gone about doing that and how they've addressed some of these challenges. And then we'll follow up Meredith's presentation with one from Taylor Emerson, who is a manager of strategic planning with the San Francisco's Recreation and Parks Department. And with Taylor's presentation, we're going to focus specifically on a single park and a single instance of how they've had challenges in the past with people leaving trash and litter, and the creative steps that they've taken to address that and make the park, bring it back towards a place that people feel invited and welcome using. So with that, if I can go to the next slide. As always, we want to do our best to overcome the fact that we aren't all here in person. So encourage folks to interact as much as possible. Make the distinction that the chat function you see on your toolbar is for just comments. If you just want to share examples, we love it when people if you want to chime in and offer examples of what you've done in your location, or if you have a reaction to something that either Meredith or Taylor says, feel free to drop those into the chat. We will take we'll anonymize the responses afterward, but we'll clean them up and we'll make that chat available on our website for people to view alongside the recording and the presentation slides, and some of the resources we'll be discussing. All those we will be posting onto our website within the next few days, and we will send out an email to everybody who registered so that you know how to access those. So I mentioned the chat. I want to make a distinction between that and the Q&A function. If there's a question you would actually like Taylor or Meredith to respond to, make sure that goes specifically into the Q&A box. That's where I will be drawing from for questions that I'll say out loud as we get toward the end of the presentation. If you put questions into the chat, they may or may not get seen. So just keep that in mind. And with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to, as I said, start off with Meredith Gauthier, who is with the City of Austin's Parks and Recs Department. And Meredith, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Alec. So hi, everyone. Welcome to sunny Austin, Texas, as y'all can see. We're starting to see the first of our blue bonnets this coming spring, so that's exciting for Austin. I know y'all are a wide audience from all around, but I do say y'all, so please get used to that. So I'm excited to talk about recycling implementation across our park system. Austin is the 11th biggest city in the country. I will be the first to tell you that we do not have all the answers for getting recycling into our parks, but I am very excited about the progress we've made. We've implemented recycling in all of our outdoor spaces over the last 4 years. Austin has a very green reputation, and before that, we did have a pretty comprehensive program for our recycling in our inside facilities, but our outside spaces, we weren't quite there yet. So starting in 2019 and then early 2020, we began implementing recycling in our outdoor spaces as well. Let me go ahead and click through. I'll just say, all right, next slide, please. It's just not going yet. All right, I can go ahead and show you. We have a pretty broad park system. So by the numbers, we have 355 parks total. We do not have recycling at all of those parks because it wasn't appropriate to add those at all of them, but we do have recycling in almost 300 of our park spaces, which is quite a lot. And you can just see the different wide range of amenities that we offer within Austin. It's pretty broad. We have everything from tennis courts and basketball courts to community gardens and cemeteries. So it's a lot of different amenities and a lot of different park visitors looking to experience different things. It's going. Let me make sure I didn't miss. Okay, we're good. All right. So this is just a little bit of my background. So I started with the city of Austin about 15 years ago, but for about 5 years, I've been doing the Sustainability Resilience Program, specifically focused on for the first 4 years on the recycling implementation. And we have a new universal recycling ordinance guidelines, and we're also trying to support the city of Austin's zero waste goals and standards. And I'll be talking today about our phased approach to recycling implementation in our outdoor spaces. So again, I mentioned our sustainability goals for City of Austin. We have a broad goal for zero waste by 2040, and that's to reduce the amount sent to landfills by 90% by the year 2040. We're close to that target, but we're a little bit off track right now. So we're thinking really if we implement more recycling at parks, that should help a good deal. And the other part is net zero emissions by 2040 as well, as part of Austin's climate equity plan. Next slide, please. So what is zero waste? Most of this audience is probably very familiar, but just in case you're not, we want to make sure to think about disposal as the very last step. So ideally, we're avoiding the waste in the first place, reducing consumption as much as possible, reuse repair options as much as possible. Then you get to the compost recycling option, then recover, and then disposal is the very last step of that. So again, going into the phased approach to recycling implementation for our 300 parks that we added recycling to. Phase one was more focused on our pools, athletic complexes like the tennis courts and the other outdoor spaces, the softball fields and baseball fields. Our largest parks in our system are called metropolitan parks. So that was the most important to address first, is those large parks, and then golf courses as well. Our second phase, I will say our phase one was a little bit delayed because of COVID. We had difficulty getting even approval to go out into our parks to do construction work. Y'all remember what a difficult time it was, but we were initially, stay-at-home orders, so we didn't do anything for about 6 months. Even after we got permission to start installing, we had to officially get the go-ahead to do our work in parks. And then phase two was the district park installation. And then phase three was neighborhood parks and remaining park facilities. And we actually did implement these according to an equity prioritization matrix that we put together based upon a wide range of factors, but largely about based upon income levels and access to park spaces and amount of children under 18. There's a whole index of factors, and I'm happy to share that with anybody interested to know. It was just a good way to answer when we'd get neighborhoods saying, when are we getting recycling in our park? And I could say, well, you're number 42 on the list, and I could have a reason, just a good explanation for why they were ranked how they were. And so we completed that recycling implementation in early 2024. So now we've started what we call the maintenance phase, which is me primarily working with our our maintenance facility managers and also our O&M staff to go out there and determine if additional locations are needed. And then whenever we have a new park coming online, a new capital improvement, we of course want to add recycling whenever we do that as well. And the important part is this time recycling is part of the capital improvement budget. Very early on, maybe even 5 years ago, adding recycling was not part of the budget for new park spaces, for outdoor park spaces. So that's why we needed to appropriate $1.2 million to get recycling added to all these parks over the 4 years. So as you can see, I've got a big red X showing what we took out. So we've updated our receptacles to now have paired blue and brown color-coded and Spanish and English labels. And just having the paired receptacles, you all might have heard of the Twin the Bin information or Twin the Bin campaign. And that's like always co-locate. So whenever you have trash, you want recycling right next to it. You want it to be just as easy for the public to recycle as it is for them to put something in the trash. And people have asked me about, left-right placement. I don't think it matters as long as you're consistent throughout your park system. We chose for trash to be on the right just because more people are right-handed than left-handed. So we wanted the default option to be trash. So if you're not thinking about it, put it in the trash. It slightly reduces contamination. But I've also heard of people doing recycle right and put recycling on the right. I don't think it matters as long as it's the same throughout your park system. And the other thing that we ask and even beg of y'all is if you're doing recycling, please make it blue. It's going to just be better for visitors nationwide if the recycling color is always the same at the parks they go to. So I do want to emphasize that we had a really deliberate approach to installing new receptacles throughout our park system. So I went out personally with our park managers, our O&M managers. It's really critical to partner with that O&M staff early on, as early as possible. The quickest way to tick off your O&M team is if you design a park and you only tell them later what the maintenance responsibilities are going to be. And if you only ask them later, hey, does it actually make sense to have the receptacles here? Is that convenient for your trucks? Is that a good location for these dumpsters? If you didn't involve them in the beginning, it's going to be a lot harder. So I'm fortunate enough that we've got a great O&M team with Parks and Recreation in Austin, and I was able to partner with them and do all these walkthroughs with them in order to know that we're getting the right locations. We also optimized our dumpster routes. We don't have dumpsters at all of our parks. We have dumpsters located strategically along our routes. So usually our teams will hit up maybe 6 to 8 smaller parks before they'll go to a dumpster that's located at one of the larger district parks or metro parks. The smallest parks do not have dumpsters. Also should mention here that our pocket parks were transitioned to pack it in, pack it out spaces. That's really important. So pack it in, pack it out is our campaign. You all might have that as well, where if you brought the trash into the park, you need to take it out with you. So we do have signage for pack it in, pack it out. And unless a park has sufficient amenities like playscapes or picnic pavilions or maybe a splash pad, other kinds of amenities that might dictate that they need to have receptacles, I think you should transition your pocket parks away from having receptacles. Those tiny parks people usually walk to in their neighborhood, to me, they don't need receptacles. You can take them right out. See how it goes. You can at least pilot taking them out and see how that goes. So let's talk about litter. I know that's why we're here. This is a real photo of one of our parks in our system. And this is just, what you see kind of hiding down the hillside, not too far from the parking lot. And it has since been cleaned up, but I'm pretty sure that this will be back in maybe another couple months. So litter is challenging for a lot of us in the park system. We were trying to figure out how bad our litter problem was within Austin. There was a 2021 trash blitz study. If Trash Blitz comes to your area, or if you can seek them out, this was a wonderful partnership we did, and it really helped to provide us that key data that we were looking for. You need data in order to convince your city council to make change. So before we could implement any large-scale changes with the type of material allowed in our park system, we wanted to first know how bad the problem was. So single-use items were 1/3 of all observed litter. 30% of plastic litter was just at 3 specific watershed locations. And we had, over 6,000 total pieces of litter observed and collected. So, and glass and aluminum were 75% of the total weight of litter too. And despite the fact that we actually don't officially allow glass in our parks. So that's interesting too, right? Glass and aluminum are 75% of the total weight. So single-use plastics are a problem. And then following that, we had a 2022 watershed study to try to figure out how bad our little litter problem was and how that was affecting our creek spaces and our watershed areas. And we found the top three sources for the trash were homeless encampments, overflowing dumpsters, and then just illegal dumping in general. So how to fix that? There's smarter folks than me that have developed this three-step procedure for how to fix this, but extraction, which is physically removing the trash from the waterways, interception, keeping trash from entering the waterways, and then source reduction. So stemming the flow into our community. And source reduction is where you can have that policy level intervention to change, to limit single-use plastics. Let's see if it can click through. Here we go. Where is litter coming from? Again, the piling problem. This is kind of like the dumping problem. Parks and Recreation considers it illegal dumping when somebody just piles trash next to the receptacle. If it's not in the receptacle, it's technically illegal dumping. You all might be very, very familiar with this in your park systems, that people love to pile trash next to an overflowing trash receptacle. They're very resistant to taking it home with them, very resistant to packing that picnic trash up into their car again. So the solution would be, of course, more receptacles and increased servicing. That top photo that I shows that we didn't actually have the twin bins at that location yet. So without the recycling, a lot of that trash that you see is actually recyclable. So it could have gone into a recycling receptacle had we had one there. The lower picture just shows that there were overflowing overflowing receptacles, and people started piling next to it. And ironically, it's next to the sign that says pack it in, pack it out. So that was not followed here at this location. And what I think happened was that because it was piled outside the receptacle, I believe a raccoon or other animal might have gotten into that. You can kind of see it strewn all over. So you've got raccoons, you've got other wildlife issues, other pests, and then you've also got the issue of winds or other issues coming about, and that's why you have trash strewn all over. And that is a problem at our parks. So one of the solutions we proposed for homeless encampments at parks, that's of course a very difficult issue, and you do need to have a multi-pronged approach. We partnered with a group in Austin for park cleanups, and that is a group that can pay folks. The Other Ones Foundation is primarily folks experiencing homelessness, are paid $15 an hour to clean up their parks. We also have a Violet storage cart program for personal belongings and Violet bags for trash. And so that's for people who do not have, who are experiencing homelessness, who do not have regular access to, they don't have curbside residential pickup because they are living outdoors. So this program helped quite a bit. And the other issue is that, people were losing their belongings a lot. So the Violet cart program helped a bit with that. Illegal dumping. I've got all kinds of, I can show so many photos of sad things dumped next to dumpsters. So the solution was to not allow trucks and cars to drive up to the dumpsters in the first place. So you got to have like the dumpsters behind vehicle bollards and vehicle gates to prevent them actually coming up to there. And then of course, locks on your dumpsters. We have a lot of wildlife game cameras. A lot of them are just, I'm going to just tell y'all, a lot of them are not actually hooked up to anything, but just saying, having the smile, you're on camera, and the camera does deter, we think. We call this our piñata problem, our cake box problem, pizza box problem, whatever it is. It's when people can't seem to fit something into the receptacle, they pile it on top, they stuff that piñata in there, and then suddenly your receptacle is out of commission for the rest of the day. So no more birthday parties can put their cake boxes in there. So we have a solution for our most popular locations for birthday parties and other gatherings. We have oversized trash units that we've added, and they say landfill trash only or large trash only. And so they're specifically for the trash that doesn't fit in the receptacles. That has helped a little bit just because, those dedicated lids, sometimes it is harder for folks to fit stuff in there. Third-party events on parkland, sometimes we're not planning for recycling. So we do now have zero waste plans required for events on parkland. That's one of those policy changes I mentioned, that you own your park system, you control who comes in, you control what kind of contracts are allowed and what language is allowed in those contracts for your use of parkland. So you can mandate that they have to have zero waste plans for any events on your parkland. We also have city plastic commitments that have recently been signed through the US Plastic Pacts and the New Plastics Economy Global Commitment. And that's really to reduce and eliminate single-use plastics. That's something that's more for City of Austin, for like our own staff, but that is a large piece of it because our own staff does a fair number of the purchasing. We found recently that City of Austin Parks and Recreation, my department was the single largest purchaser of single-use plastics throughout the city. It's like, oh, shame. And, it's a lot of it at recreation centers, senior centers. We interact with the public, more than I'd say almost any other department. And so we're having, we did a lot of purchasing of single-use things. So we're really trying to avoid those as much as possible. There is an exemption for emergencies, however. So this is our single-use plastics policy. I'm happy to share more information about this. We do have some zero waste ideas that we're trying to get our rec centers on board with, although we realize it's a systems change, and that's going to take some time for them to maybe start asking for participants as part of a program to bring their own cup, and to have kids wash their utensils or wash their plates as part of a program for the after-school snack program. It's a larger change. We'll see how it goes. More litter solutions. We've got an It's My Park Day partnered with a nonprofit here for spring and fall cleanups. And we also have, for waterway creekside litter, we started giving away these reusable yellow mesh bags. You can see in one of the pictures they're holding those. Those are given out to park campers and other folks at some of our more popular like day use sites, so people can pack up their recyclables to the entry area. We're working on trying to get people to get a voucher so they can get their entry fee back. They can get paid back for their entry as long as they bring back a full bag of trash as they leave. I think that's going to be awesome once we get that permitted. And then we've also got a kayak cleanup crew. That's a great, it's been through a nonprofit, and that's the concession provides, it's a concession that provides free kayaks if people are doing a cleanup event. And then we have an issue with fishing line. There's a Reel In and Recycle program. And you might have local Eagle Scouts or Girl Scouts looking to get an award that might be interested in installing these for y'all. So, but that's a program called Reel In and Recycle, and they've got signage online. You can just grab online. Vandalism, another fun problem that comes up constantly. I'm sure you all, park managers, you're going to deal with this as well. So our solutions are just cable ties for lids, moving away from these metal receptacles, using more heavy duty recycled plastic receptacles. And then as a last resort, we've added some old concrete receptacles back in our highest vandalism areas. My policy is usually like they get 2 sets of receptacles, like we'll replace them once. We might even replace them again. If it happens a third time, we're going back to the old concrete ones. And I hate to do that, but yeah. And, we just have to spray paint those or paint those either blue or brown to have it match at least the color coding. But yeah, the old concrete ones are not as aesthetically pleasing, but they do last a long time. We've also got public education to mention. The Leave No Trace campaign has been really successful in our parks. We've used our park rangers as the face of our Leave No Trace campaign. And like I mentioned before, with public education, you just got to be very consistent with your colors and labels. With composting, we don't have composting yet at our outdoor system as much. We do have composting. We're starting to pilot that at our indoor recreation facilities. Composting outdoors is the final frontier for us. We'd like to get there. As much as I've seen, we almost need a dedicated person to stand next to a receptacle for compost at events to make sure that it doesn't get contaminated. So if anybody else has more solutions, like I said, Austin does not have all the answers, and we're very willing to learn if any folks have better ideas for composting, especially outdoors. Consistent signage. Wanted to let y'all know, Austin, Texas has a free sign maker program that you can see the signs that are directly underneath the compost one. It can help you just create any signs you need. You choose what items you want to put in that sign maker tool. More public education. Pet waste is something we struggle with. Pet waste sometimes gets thrown into the woods, or people put it into the recycling bin. It's because manufacturers sell these biodegradable, compostable pet waste bags. You all know that pet waste in a bag does not biodegrade outdoors. So that's the whole problem, is that people think it's going to biodegrade outdoors. So you need really specific signs to say pet waste goes here on your trash receptacles. Mutt mitt stations help. Scoop the poop campaigns, any of that, and just really good signage. Just make it clear that you cannot leave pet waste on the ground. And then again, the recycling signage I mentioned, we have an empty cans and bottles only policy for our park spaces. That might, for our outdoors park spaces, I should say, that might be something you might want to implement as well to reduce contamination. That way you don't have to worry about paper that gets wet, inside the receptacle, because people have, put a half empty bottle of Coke in there as well. If you just have empty cans and bottles only, you keep it consistent, reduce contamination. And then quickly wanted to mention that this is something for our staff at work in our outdoor spaces. We wanted them to be really educated as well. So we put together a waste sorting kit game. I'm happy to share this with y'all too. It's very simple, but you just use pictures of the stuff that's biodegradable, obviously. But yeah, I feel like more groups should do this to be able to educate the public. Educate your staff first, because that's your front line with your outdoor spaces. If you all want to do this in the chat real quick, I think we're kind of short on time, but just wanted to let y'all know, if we can't get it right as park professionals, then how are we asking the public to get it right? So I'm just going to educate y'all through this, but also let you know how difficult it is to get it right without great signage. So which waste bin should plastic wrap or bags go in? Go put it in the chat. Let's say at your park. I saw somebody put something about a grocery store, but if you're at your park. All right, I think people got it. It is landfill. If you're outdoor at the parks, it's got to be at the landfill. You cannot, it's landfill trash bin. You cannot put it in the recycling bin. It's going to clog up the recycling in the system at the municipal processing facility. So the next one, which waste bin should plastic utensils go in? Plastic utensils. This is you're at an outdoor park. You've got two options at your outdoor park. You're just going to say you've got your recycling bin, you've got your landfill trash. Maybe you've got a compost bin. All right, landfill or pack it out. Yep. These plastic utensils, at least for our system, we cannot process them. There's too small to process the plastic utensils at our municipal recycling facility. So that might differ from system to system. At least within Austin, these plastic utensils have to go in the trash. Which waste bin should use paper towels or napkins go in? So this is tricky. If you have a compost, it should go in the compost. If you don't have compost available to you because you're at an outdoor park and it's only got trash and recycling, they've got to go in the trash. If your only options are trash or recycling. Yep, trash, landfill. Correct. So this is just to illustrate how tricky it is for folks to get this right when you don't have good signage. All right, so that's the end of my presentation. I appreciate y'all's attention today. Please be great ambassadors of Leave No Trace everywhere you go. And let me know if you have any questions at the end of the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.
You've got a great program there. Lots to learn from. I'm excited, and I'm proud of everybody. It seems like we're pretty sophisticated crowd ourselves in terms of knowing the answers to some of these questions. So before we switch to the next presentation, we're going to do a quick live poll at my own end here. So in a second, you can see this pop up in your screen. Have you tried, this is for any of you out there who actually obviously are working with a park directly, but have you tried removing waste bins to address litter? Actually, remove them altogether. Similar, pack it in, pack it out, and would love to hear your responses. Did it actually lead to litter reduction? Sort of mixed results. Maybe it's worked in some places, but not others. Go ahead and it pulls up now on your screen, so go ahead and fill that out. And while folks are doing that, Meredith, there are a number of questions coming into the chat. The first one I'll throw out is several people flagged. At the very beginning, you were talking about sort of the system for how you rank parks and figured out how to prioritize them. Is there anything on your website or anything that discusses more about that criteria, how you went about doing that?
Yes, we have a recycling implementation report as part I think that is available online right now. So if you just type in City of Austin, recycling implementation parks, something like that, the recycling implementation park report will pop up. And the last part, the appendix of the recycling implementation report, it's a long report, y'all. But if you get through it, the matrix is at the end of that. So it does kind of show how we prioritized our parks throughout the park system. And it's just based on, it's an equity prioritization matrix. And it has to do with income and access to park spaces and number of children under 18 and park user density, like how many people live close to that park. Yeah, thank you for popping that in the chat, Alec. Awesome.
That I will use that opportunity to just give a shout out. There's a lot of great stuff that they have on their website there. A lot of these reports, one of the things that really impressed me about the program you have is just a very deliberate way in which PART has gone about sort of planning this out, having the documents and really documenting what you're doing. So there's a lot of great stuff that others can get from the reports that are on the website there.
Thank you.
Good. So just to close out this poll, looks like this is still a tough one. The whole idea of taking away bins is, I'm sure, controversial, especially when you ask your grounds folks who have to be the ones to clean up. It's a little tricky, but so it looks like a few people have tried doing it with some successful, some not. Would love to hear from the folks who've done this and actually have found it has led to litter. Would love to see a little bit more. If you want to drop some, some comments into the chat to share what your experience was, or if you have your own reports, anything you can point to that you want to share with others, that would be great to drop those into the chat. Good. We have other questions. I'm going to save these for the very end. Then we'll come back and we'll address questions more generally. But if we can close the poll and advance a slide. Um, Let me go ahead and introduce Taylor Emerson with the San Francisco Recreation and Parks Department, and tell us about Dolores Park and what you've been doing there.
Great. Thank you, Alec. It's a pleasure to be here today with all of you out in Zoom land. I am going to talk about one case study, a very beloved park in San Francisco, formerly called Mission Dolores Park. People shorten it just to be Dolores, or sometimes even just Dolo. It is about, see, I'm waiting for the slide to advance. And I might have to rely on Alec and Tyler to get me started here. We started in 2015, 2016, this stewardship campaign at one of our most popular parks. It's 14 acres of wide open lawn, a world-class playground. The size from north to south is about 4 city blocks with a 12% grade. So that provides this sweeping view of downtown, and is part of what makes it so popular to be lying on the grass and having this big, big sky view. The park is wildly popular on a sunny day if you were to visit, and I hope you do visit. You could find 10,000 people on those 14 acres. Most of them have picnics. They're in groups, meeting friends. This park provides that magic that makes San Francisco so special. There's lots of fun here. There's people watching. You might run into Robot Dance Party, this guy that comes out, he's got speakers and he creates a party wherever he goes. There's people doing acro yoga, live acoustic music, and picnics, bubbles. There's a guy that was in the paper yesterday who has a costume he calls Dolorosaurus, a dinosaur costume he brings out at night. So this is a place where people come to play and have joyous times together in the park. Had you come 10 years ago, you might have seen a scene like this. Lawns were covered with litter. It was customary, you could even say the culture, to just not care about the place. It was a management failure. There were piles of trash mounded, food, beverage, glass, absolutely everything here in this park, and a real challenge for our maintenance staff to maintain. The way our gardeners work in the union is people bid what parks they want to work in, and nobody was bidding Dolores in this area. So we were perpetually understaffed because due to the MOU, actually gardeners have to be the ones to pick up litter on the lawn area. And these are trained horticultural specialists, botanists, people with botany degrees. And this is what they had to face every day when they came to work. The problems were multifaceted, layered. First of all, there was inadequate park infrastructure. That blurry picture over on the left is people queuing up. Back in 2014, there were only 4 restrooms, 4 toilets at this park, which made long, long lines to go to the bathroom and resulted in lots of people just peeing in the bushes, or worse yet, peeing in the front yards of adjacent homeowners. The trash cans were inside the park, and they often obviously overflowed. They were difficult to service, in part due to the grade, in part due to the park crowds. We called it bag and drag, where gardener would take a Toro up the hill, bag the trash, drag it almost like a train down through the crowd to get up more, and then eventually bring it to the perimeter. It was a disaster of operations mismanagement. That cost us about $500,000 annually in gardener time to do litter abatement at this one park, 14 acres. We have more than 225 parks, so this was not good, efficient use of time. And additionally, $250,000 of our college scavenge costs. It was all going into landfill, and landfill cost the most amount. There were lots of contributions to this problem. It used to be, Dolores, back when I moved to San Francisco, it was just kind of a normal neighborhood park. A regular number of people went there, but starting about 2010, it got very popular. And every year there's been a rise in popularity. And this coincided with the rise in convenience culture and food and beverage to go packages. I think 30 years ago, 20 years ago, when I was raising my kids, we brought a picnic from home. But now people stop on the way and get packaged food and want to leave it in the park. When they leave, they want to throw it away in the park in single-use packages. There was also, as is obvious, a sense of lawlessness at this park. We had kind of, it partly surprised us, the rise in popularity, and partly it seemed just too hard to solve. So there was an element of us just looking the other way. There were raves that would go on at night, people bringing in speakers on dollies, furniture, having unpermitted events. There was vending, lots of drug and alcohol sales. And there was media, the worst part of all, was that there was media coverage blaming the Recreation and Parks Department for this mismanagement. We tried to intervene in 2014, and then we were charged with starting a war on fun. So it was a really difficult, between a rock and a hard place, no real clear solutions. But luckily, we did have an opportunity for a sort of reset. The park was named in a general obligation bond. It had never had a renovation since it opened and was one of the oldest parks in San Francisco. And this is a boring picture of a meeting because there were more than 50 community meetings. Mostly people didn't want to change anything. They didn't want a renovation. They wanted it to be exactly as it was, and they didn't want it to close for any period of time. This was the public comment we heard. So we narrowed the scope of the project to just expanding restrooms, adding an overlook, 2 new dog play areas. You may know San Francisco has the lowest ratio of children of any city in the United States. There are far more dogs than there are children in San Francisco, and we improved the irrigation and some ADA access. We also agreed to close the park in phases. So we did the north side first, the north half, renovated that, and then switched. And together they opened in 20. It's missing a slide. Oh dear. Anyway, there was a slide of the aerial drone shot of a beautiful brand new park, and the reset that we had in 2016, and the birth of the Love Dolores campaign, which is a stewardship campaign aimed really at the people who go to this park. There is a fairly narrow demographic band, the Zennials, the 22 to 32-year-olds, that are the most heavy part of the visitors here. And this stewardship campaign really is aimed at them. Before we got there, we did some studying of the trash situation that included me sitting in the park for hours, probably about 100 hours, observing people and their interaction with trash cans, their interactions uh, with their own waste, looking for trash cans, how they acted when they got to the trash cans, if they were full. And we also did a waste characterization study with our partners at Recology, who are incredible partners. And they also didn't like the press showing all the trash on the ground. So we were and still continue to be great partners in managing waste in the public sphere together. It won't surprise anybody to know that 65% of the waste stream that we collected there was divertible. Most of it was recyclable, lots of compost, picnic leftovers. And the most important thing we learned was that the waste of volume at this park was going to need more capacity and or more service. Had an intern once calculate the volume of waste, and she figured out that we would need 96-gallon toters around the park, 92 of them serviced twice a day in order to capture this volume. And that wasn't going to work to have a boundary of trash cans, so we needed a new solution. We also worked with the Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics in Colorado. Oh, now I see a typo in the first bullet. More trash cans does not mean less litter. That is what they really believe, that trash cans attract trash. And they helped us to understand and have the confidence and courage to remove trash cans. We ultimately took all trash cans out of the park. They used to be in the park, that wasn't working, so we had to try something new. They also helped us understand that as far as communicating with park visitors, that clear, direct communication is best. Telling people what you want them to do. Put trash in the bin is better than please don't litter. That interpersonal, having a person talking to a person is the best, most effective way to change behavior. And that role modeling can in fact change social norms. And that's exactly what we needed to do at this park, is change social norms. We also, being in San Francisco, consulted with the Burning Man Project. Burning Man is the world's largest Leave No Trace festival, and they have successfully run it for, I think, more than 25 years now. And in some ways, Dolores Park is like a festival on the weekends on a sunny day. And what they helped us, the lesson we got from them is that the campaign is never done. Don't think this is a one and done campaign. That actually is an ongoing, ever going effort to create a culture where everyone cleans up after themselves and in fact tries to leave the place better than it was found. So we took, here's my slide. We took all of those lessons learned and created the Love Dolores campaign. What does it include? To deal with the volume of staff, we have an eco pop-up system. This pops up 6 months of the year, our peak season, which is from May through October, and it is staffed. Meredith, you're absolutely right. We cannot manage compost at all in the public sphere. We can barely do recycling good enough. So this is a staffed service on the weekends, noon to 7 p.m. In the peak season, to help sort recyclables and compost in 3 different perimeter locations. Landfill itself is self-sort. Prior to the renovation, we had only about 3% diversion, which is really just gardeners redirecting the green waste. And as of last season, we had 81% diversion of the total waste generated on the park. We started doing surveys. Surveys have twofold. One is to provide data to help power our advocacy and policy changes. And the second is really, it's not really a survey. It's a touch point. It's a moment of connection with our park visitor to provide that public education. So we just ask a few questions. Do you know where the trash is? And if they say yes, great. Where is it? It's on the perimeter. Yes, you're right. Thank you so much. We ask how often they come to the park. Turns out this park, which we knew, but having the data really helped us, about 80% of return visitors. This is a local park. Something like 60% come more than once or at least once a month. So these people are regulars. This is almost functions as a town square, as the community center for the people that visit this park. And then we ask them, did you buy anything on your way to the park today? Buy Right is a local grocery store that's just about a half a block away that has a lot of prepared food and really beautiful groceries to bring to your picnic. And there's other corner stores as well. And those are certainly the most popular sites where people stop on their way to the park to buy some stuff. We do use on-site messages, a lot of on-site messages. We chalk on the pathways every weekend. We use these A-frame chalks every weekend as well. The messages are fresh, they're new, they're different. They may relate to the season or a holiday. Happy Interdependence Day is one of my all-time favorites. And we use on-site signage, on-site banners with photos and messages. Let me just say right here, if you look at this banner, this is not the typical language you would see from a government agency. We do not put our San Francisco Recreation and Parks Department logo on any signage at Dolores. We only use the Love Dolores logo. And although it's a little pretend, it does give us that space, that extra kind of distance to use the tone, the sass, the language of our park visitors. So we try to speak directly to them about how to love this park. Love is a verb, another great sign, and we work hard to show people how to love this park. Dolores likes booty, not butts. Cigarette butts are another big problem. Of course, smoking in the park is prohibited. It's not the smoking itself that hurts the park. This is a harm reduction campaign. We really focus on the things that hurt the park. Our goal is a safe, fun, clean park, and that's what we focus on. If something is prohibited and it doesn't hurt the park itself or inhibit safe, fun, clean, we do not enforce that. There is discretionary enforcement at this park, probably more than any other. And we really focus on the things that limit safe, fun, clean. That's Amori, that's love, picking up litter. This is the kind of thing that we do there. That survey that showed us where people shop turned out to be really, really important. We've gone to those businesses and we've said, look, we're partners in managing this park. You are selling a lot of sandwiches and beer, and we need your help in, a lot of that stuff, leftovers get left in our park, and we need your help. We need to partner in better managing the park and the whole corridor there. So these are all the partners that we have. We put posters up, fresh new posters, new design every year, although this logo is always the same. And we have worked most importantly with all the places that sell beverages to get them to convert into the beverage selection into cans. When we first started, we did an audit of all the beverages you could buy within 2 blocks of the park, and about 80% were in glass. I think there is this unfortunate assumption or perception that glass is somehow cleaner or somehow better. And what we really had to work on with these merchants was that the concept of lightweighting, and that aluminum has a much lower carbon footprint, but not only in the transportation but in the manufacture of it. In California, because we have a bottle bill, we do an aluminum can that's recycled is back on the shelf as aluminum in about 6 weeks. So highly efficient aluminum capture system. And we really hit hard on bring your drinks in cans. Buy Right, the grocery store, has now, the last summer we looked, about 70% of the drinks were in cans. So that's been a big success, and one again that is never done. The manager changes. We have to reteach every year. They even let us put posters inside their beverage refrigerators there. Going to Dolores, buy cans. We do make swag every year. We spend about, $5,000-$10,000 a year making swag. We've done different things over the years. Bandanas, which are great. They go on dogs. You can use them as a napkin. Those have been popular and kind of enduring. We made some plastic straws. Sunglasses, which I think are cheap and junky, but people do really like them. That that thing in the middle there is that green kind of plastic bottle. We tried once, it was to get people to pour a bottle of wine into that and then only bring that into the park. Didn't really work. Nobody wants to drink wine out of a plastic bag, but we tried it. And there is a certain sense of experimentation and piloting things with this. And that required real buy-in from our general manager and the elected officials over this area. Let us try, and we might fail. Of all the things we've made for swag, the most popular is what's called a koozie. Do you guys know? It's like that weird neoprene material that goes over a can to keep it cold. And these are very popular. So we use swag to interact with people. Sometimes use them for the surveys. You're going up to a group, they're having fun with their friends. They don't really want to do a survey or talk to you. But if you have a little gift to give them, it goes better. So, hey, I see hey you guys, welcome to the park. We're doing a quick survey today. I see you brought beer in cans. Did you know that glass is prohibited and it's really hard on the park? And I want to give you this koozie so that next time you come to the park, if you want this koozie, we always ask people if they want it. We make them want it. If they don't want it, they don't have to take it, of course. We don't want to generate waste. If you'd like to have this koozie, we'd love to give it to you as a reminder to buy cans next time you come to the park. No coming again because of that survey. And we end every interaction with tell your friends. This is a very narrow demographic that comes to this park frequently. And so their friends are coming. They're coming tomorrow. They're coming next weekend. So tell your friends is how we end everything. All right. We also have community days, events in the park. We do love letters to the park that we then use in social media. We do a Mother's Day, Father's Day event where both of those words are broadly interpreted. We have games, we have prizes, we have social media interaction, tag us, and we'll choose somebody who tags us today. We have higher level swag. We have beautiful picnic blankets that people love. And so we use those sometimes to drive social media participation. Influencers, even before the phrase influencers were coined, we talked about role models, and there is a certain sort of ecosystem at Dolores. There is a lot of vending in the park. This guy on the left, coconut guy, he has this gimmick where he has a big old machete, coolers full of coconuts. He hacks off the top, you drink a little of the coconut milk, he fills it up with rum, and then he gives you this drink. And the coconuts were an absolute bane to the gardeners because they're very heavy. Two could go into a bag, but the third one would rip the bag. So the gardeners absolutely hated him and wanted us to enforce him out of the park. But he was sort of a mayor. He was so popular. What we decided to try to do was embrace him instead. He wore our t-shirts, and I told him, look, dude, if you want to keep up your business in the park, you have to get your customers to compost these coconuts. And he understood the task. And he worked hard to share our message. Truffle guy, these were THC infused truffles. And although there is no litter from truffles, he was one of our ambassadors. He was a beloved member of the park community and carried our message. Mr. Sunblock has nothing to do with litter, but he was a very popular guy. You can see his belt there. He would let you choose what kind of sunblock you wanted. You could apply it to yourself, or he would apply it to you. And although he doesn't have a shirt on in this picture, he did wear a Love Dolores t-shirt and help us share the message. So influencers turned out to be an important element of this campaign, especially at the beginning when we were trying to convert. All right. Of course, we have to talk about social media. Our general approach is to have what we call 3 positives and 1 shame. So we'll do 3 aspirational positive photos for every one that's darker, vibing right in the sunshine. These guys have a beautiful reusable picnic basket. And this is the selfie generation. They love to see themselves on social media. So we tag them, they tag us. We use a lot of other people's photos in our social media. So if somebody else posts a picture of their friends or the view or a cute dog on social media, we'll use it in our social media. And then for every 3 of those, we do, a picture of horrible litter or glass, and still try to capture that voice of the park goer. All right, we're going to take a quick break here and just do a poll to see how much have any of you, these are not new ideas. I think one of the things that's new is kind of the cohesive, comprehensive approach, real organizational focus we made on this park to change the culture. So I'm curious if you all have used signage, surveys as a tool to interact, social media that's focused on a park, and if you have a campaign that thinks about glass in the park. I'll just say, I will never ever buy a Corona beer. They always show Corona in a glass at the beach, and that is not what we want to be proposing. So we actually work with other park agencies in San Francisco. There are lots of other park agencies that manage open space in San Francisco, and together we drive this glass message. All right. When we get the results of these, let me see. Yeah, what did you do with liquid education? I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, we do not enforce alcohol or drug sales in the park. They themselves do not hurt the park. What we focus on is littering behavior, and taking your waste to the perimeter to be properly sorted, or encourage you to take it home. Heavens, that would be great. All right. Alec, yes, signage that speaks to the audience, surveys as public education tool. This is something that we use a lot. And of course, I think everybody is very quickly embracing social media to encourage park stewardship. All right. I have just a few more slides. And so let me see if I can advance. We have just two metrics to measure the success of this campaign. And they are trash bags collected. So when gardeners go to work in the morning at 6:30, they hit Dolores first because it is very public and sensitive, politically sensitive site. And we got the idea to start measuring trash bags in 2017. So that's when our data starts. It would have been a much higher number in 2015 and 16. And you can see the downward trend. So every day the gardener just sends me, we picked up 20 bags, today. And we overall, since the campaign started, we've had an 80% reduction in the amount of bags collected by gardeners. And probably the most important metric to my general manager is negative press that blames us. We worked so hard to shift to provide adequate infrastructure and adequate service level and receptacle volume and capacity on the perimeter. And now it's up to park visitors to be civil and to be good members of the community. And the last time the Chronicle suggested that it was our fault was in 2018. So that is really my single most important measure of success right there. Of course, we do measure volume diverted as well. Seems like my arrow is not. Could we advance the slide? All right. Yeah. So last season, 25,000 pounds of waste was diverted from landfill. This is a win. This is a metric for our responsibilities as land stewards. So much with park management, but definitely as land stewards. And I'm really proud of this. Dolores is the only park that has diversion in our whole system. So it's been it's probably the most gratifying and most successful thing I've done. Although if we were to stop now, absolutely nothing. I think that, this is definitely one of those that have to do each and every season. Next slide. It's been a huge team effort with rangers, with the gardeners, with the merchants, with neighbors, I forgot to mention that we do have 2 on-site student conservation area SCA interns every weekend. We hire 2 every season. We choose 2 that are reflective of the community at Dolores and that can connect with people there. And so our partnership with SCA has been really important. It's been a huge team effort. And this has really led to, next slide, a much cleaner park. And with that, next slide, I've concluded my presentation. Happy to take some questions from you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Taylor. Um, um, two things that stand out to me with your presentation are it's common to sort of there's a problem and you sort of how do you just hammer it? How do you take it on and just sort of taking a generic response, you can find yourself banging your head against a wall and not making progress. But how do you step back and think creatively? How do you really study and understand a location, and how do you tailor something to that, and how that can drive much different results, and especially how do you speak to your local community? Obviously, this is much different than it's going to be. I'm based here in South Carolina, and it's a different community, different values. You would communicate differently, but the key is to understand who it is you're trying to communicate to, and how do you reach them with the message that's going to resonate. So again, hugely impressed with what you guys have done.
Exactly. Know your audience is our goal here. Yeah. What do they care about? They care about the park. They care about each other. And to try to leverage that was where this really started.
Yeah, and that was one question that came from Chris was how you came down to that Love Dolores as the branding. Any other thoughts you have in terms of how you landed on that message?
We knew we needed to know our audience, and that, speaking from the government, from the man, from the guys telling you don't, what to do and not to do, that wasn't going to work. We felt like that would not be as successful. So we wanted to create that opportunity, that space. And sometimes it feels kind of false and fake, but it has really worked for us, actually. To have the brand Love Dolores be the voice of the park. And that isn't always the voice of our general manager. But we've learned that, with some of the early wins, we felt like it was enough encouragement to keep going with this.
Yeah, excellent. It's something that strikes me as it has an inclusive. It's something that sort of encourages a level of ownership and all, which is always something. How do you get people to feel an investment in something?
And that was a little bit easier because there are so many return visitors here, because this is their place, to help them connect those two facts. They love this place and they're coming back next week. We need to take care of it. Love is a verb. We use it all the time. Yeah.
One other question that came from somebody: are the park swag items that you purchase, are those from a grant or city funds? How
We
are
do use regular department funds for those purchases.
got it?
Yeah. We have a robust public affairs division, and we believe that the swag, it helps us deliver the message. It helps us start that point of contact when we're doing surveys or on-site events. It to have an offer to generously give. In fact, when we're asking people to give too. And so the swag, I was kind of negative on the swag idea at the very beginning, because being a zero waste advocate, I was like, I don't want a bunch of junk in the park. And that's in part why we always ask, if you'd like to have this, we'd like to give it to you if you want it. And people always want it. Just kind of reinforcing that this is valuable, and that we're giving it to you for a reason. We're giving you this koozie so that next time you come, you remember to buy cans.
Yeah. Good. Meredith, if you want to join us, we're going to wrap up in a moment. I know we're at the hour, but we're going to go for just another few minutes. But one question that I have, or sort of an observation, I'd love to get both of your thoughts on this. Both of you, in one way or another, have experimented with this idea of, can you counterintuitively remove bins and somehow get people to actually not dump trash? And certainly from my experience, a key aspect to this is sort of expectations, what people are thinking, and how that changes from one location to the next. I've noticed on college campuses is another location where oftentimes you can get away with removing bins entirely, but there's a lot of social context to that. I would love to hear any more thoughts or observations of why it works some locations, why it doesn't in others. If either of you want to add a thought to that.
That's a tough question. We did remove bins from the park, and probably the first year, 2 years, even into the third year, there was a lot of public protest. People read us mean letters. They were very upset. They'd come to meetings. They wrote to their local supervisor complaining about it. And because of that return visitor thing, some of the oldies remembered where the trash cans used to be, and they would mound the trash in those old locations. So there was definitely resistance when we moved the trash out. And we just kept returning to the message that it didn't work when the trash cans were in the park. So now they're on the perimeter. You walked by them on your way in, you're going to walk by them on your way out. We've made it more convenient for you and more convenient for park to service a trash can. So give it a try. It took a long time. And part of what setting the expectation was setting the expectations with elected officials and our general manager. There's going to be protests. People are not going to like this. But I think since then they've really learned it is just as convenient, and it's doesn't have the visual blight of having trash cans in the park and the resulting piles and mounds and birds and wind and rats and raccoons.
Yeah, I would just echo that. We've found the same issue with the City of Austin parks. Whenever we remove something, especially that I mentioned those pocket parks, we're transitioned to pack it in, pack it out spaces. We tried to put the pack it in, pack it out sign whenever there used to be a trash receptacle there, landfill trash receptacle, and we removed it. We tried to replace it with a sign so people knew it was a deliberate choice. No, the receptacle is not coming back, but this is why. But there are people who, they regularly do the same dog walking route every day. They're very used to having the same spot to deposit that dog waste bag. And when it's gone, they're just like, they're up in arms about it. They're like, where did the receptacle go? So people do sometimes protest by leaving, a little present of dog waste for you at that spot where it used to be. We've definitely found that. So I think signage does help some, but I think it does, like Taylor said, it can take years to overcome that mentality of like, there used to be a receptacle here.
Yeah.
It's hard. Signage is good.
From my experience also, there are other sort of fine things about how you read a location and a site. You may need to have bins somewhere, but where they go, are there sight lines? If you remove bins from one location, do you know that at least people can visually see there is another one over there, so they can work from that? They can build an expectation. I will have an option if I go a little bit further. I know with the National Mall, I was involved with a feasibility study many years ago where we were looking at the number of bins that were needed, and the assumption of that number was radically different than ultimately what research showed when we actually tried removing some of those bins. Again, as long as they were available, it's not perfect, but nothing about this is. It's about what works and then manages the situation.
And the nice thing about it is it's just trash and recycling receptacles. So if it's not successful, these are small amenities. You can take them out, put them back in, and it's not that difficult.
But it never hurts to sort of test things out and see it and not automatically go with the assumption.
Yes, you want to be conservative with the number you put in initially. You can always put more in later.
Yeah. Great. We are at the end of our time, so I real quickly want to a couple of things. In a moment, I'm going to be introducing a colleague of mine, Sarah, from our sales department, to talk a little bit about some of our products. But before I hand it over to her, I want to reiterate that we will have the recording and the slides from today, as well as some of the resources I've been dropping into the chat. All these will be posted online to our website within the next day or two, and anybody who registered for this program will get that follow-up email to find those links. We've done 2 previous webinar programs on a parks downtown outdoor public space setting, and we have those recordings are also available, including I just referred to that the National Mall was one project. But we have a presentation about that from Seattle Parks and Rec, City of West Vancouver. So encourage folks to check out those recordings too, if this is a topic of interest. Some litter research that was done by an old colleague of mine from Keep America Beautiful. So you can find those on our website now. If we can go to the next slide. We are moving forward after today. Our next program, we're going to take April off, but in mid-May, we're going to come back with our next focus on squarely bin labels and signage. If you've joined some of these webinars in the past, or if you've ever chatted with me, this is a topic I love to geek out on in terms of what is it that you can put on bins, on the labels, how you present that can influence how people sort their waste. So we're going to have two more great case study presentations, one from San Francisco International Airport that did original research, actual research, behavioral studying how people reacted to different types of images and words. And then we'll have a presentation as well from Arizona State University. So we'll be setting out the save the date for that in the very near future. And I think, do I have one more slide here? Just to thank you both, Meredith, Taylor. It's exciting to see what you guys are doing, and again, really appreciate you taking the time to put together these presentations.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thanks so much. This was fun.
Great. So again, we're done for today. Zoom system sends out a survey. We'd love to get your feedback. Share any comments that you want for our speakers. We'll forward those on. So keep an eye out for that when you drop off the program. And then lastly, as I mentioned, we're going to do a quick transition. We're done here, but I want to invite my colleague Sarah Hawthorne to come on. If you're not familiar with Busch Systems, we are a purveyor of fine recycling and waste bin products for park locations as well as indoor and others. And so the official program's over, but I encourage folks who want to stick around to hear a little bit more from Sarah about what it is that Busch Systems does. So I'll hand it over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Alec. I just want to also extend another thank you to Meredith and Taylor for their amazing presentations. I hope that you all have many beneficial takeaways within this hour, as well as Alec for facilitating these wonderful webinars. As Alec mentioned, my name is Sarah. I am one of the business development managers here at Busch Systems. I've been with Busch for about 8 years next week, and I'm really excited to showcase a few of our outdoor containers specifically for geared towards public spaces. Really wanting to touch on, again, the importance of the education factor is key. This world is ever changing. It's so important in regards to the consistency of the coloration of streams, the verbiage, really honing in on those specific factors to ensure of correct disposal, especially in a public setting. Those are the biggest challenges that we hear from customers. When we do connect with customers, we really do like to discuss those pain points and to try to find the most beneficial solution for your areas. For example, we touch base on materials of if you prefer a metal versus recycled lumber versus plastics, single versus doubles, front loading, top loading, capacity, service aspects, locks. We really do like to hone in on those specific factors, just because we want to ensure that it's a solution that works best for your outdoor needs for sure. So I know everyone has been over an hour sitting, so I will definitely try to make this short and sweet. And I do just have a few options that are really geared towards a park setting. So this is our Uptown double unit. It is at a 32-gallon capacity, and we can never stress enough on, obviously in a public setting, the restricted openings are key. So we really do suggest that in any type of public settings. I really, really love the Uptown for this specific reason that these openings not only are they securely put into place, because we know that that is also a pain point for a public setting for vandalism. But these specific restrictive openings have extended about, I would say, a 2-inch flap per se. It's still hard plastic, but this actually deters anyone from sticking their arms in, because you can't actually go down to the container to pull the contents out. So really, really key in that aspect of restrictive openings. It's a lockable unit. You can actually customize any type of opening color, your badge verbiage, These are a customized label as well. So if you do really have, you prefer to use landfill versus trash versus garbage versus waste, we could definitely make that happen of your exact vision and what works best in your public area. Not only to mention that servicing aspects are extremely important to us, especially within the R&D process. So every single liner that we have in our outdoor containers, made us sound silly, but we do have handles. Handles are very, very important when your facility staff, outdoor staff are kind of moving relatively fast. You need to grab specific areas and change them out. We also have a lot of customers that do purchase additional liners. So when they're going around to these stations, that it's an easier, quick swap in, swap out to make it more time efficient as well. We also have, for majority of our outdoor units, we do have ground kits. So soft ground as well as hard ground, because again, not every single park outdoor space is going to be the exact same in regards to their ground. So we do kind of have those options available for every open space. So again, this is our Uptown. It comes in a sandstone and a lot of different options with this specific container. This right here is our expression, comes in a single and a double. We've actually had a lot of customers, just depending on preference of capacity. You could get the double, or you could also get a full single and a full single and kind of just place them beside each other with the anchor kits. And it works out really well. Again, very secured, restrictive openings. And as Taylor was mentioning in regards to her partnerships, this container here is all four sides. Sorry, it's a little bit heavy. So the signage, as well as we say, is extremely important. It's all four sides, as well as if you have those partners or advertising aspects, you can go around all four sides with these containers, which is great education factor, just to get the word across in regards to your specific collection needs, promotions, upcoming events. Really great aspect of this expression. Both are a 20-gallon capacity, but the full single is a 40-gallon capacity. It's lockable as well, extremely easy to pull in and out of the signage. You can just take the top off and replace all four signage. It is an outdoor grade material that would be able to last in the sleet, the snow, the rain, wind, you name it. Also within this container, as you can see, it has your handles. Is that there's actually a recessed area too for if you are looking for a little bit more weight, you have the option to put sandbags, blocks, whatever you have on hand that would be most beneficial, you have that option as well. And if you are interested in a specific design, we have an in-house graphics department as well that can, we can go through the mock-up process. We could take your specific artwork files and request mock-ups just to kind of see as a visual as what it would look like. Great. So moving from the plastics to, we have a recycled lumber, which is our Aspire series. Within our Aspire series, we have about 4 different options in regards to series. We do have an indoor option that would be available, and that's the beauty about Busch as well, is that we do have a lot of products that can stay consistent within your indoor and your outdoor spaces, which is really key. So this particular unit, it is on casters, so that's why it's a little bit taller. This is our Vision unit. It comes in single, double, triple, extremely customizable. So you have the option of the colored panels, the posts, the signage, the labels, you name it. We can customize any type of configuration that works for you. And again, going back to the ease of servicing. So this is a 23-gallon unit with handles that we can go up to a 45-gallon capacity. We've even had some customers that really want to hone in on a larger recycling container, which means we've done a 45 gallon size of recycling, and then a 23-gallon side for trash. So really just kind of depends on your area and what you're looking to mostly collect, but the options are definitely endless in regards to what type of configuration you're looking for. As Meredith mentioned, the recycled lumber is definitely one of the most popular types of materials, especially in an outdoor setting. It's UV protected, wind, rain, salt, you name it, it's extremely durable. As well in regards to any type of graffiti, it's not a porous per se type material, so it's extremely easy to pressure wash the graffiti off as well. So that's one of the big benefits. Here is our Aura single, exact same play of the configuration style. We do really suggest a sloped lid, as both Taylor and Meredith had expressed that, the placement and people just kind of dumping and leaving, we try to avoid that at any cost that we can. So this is kind of our full opening, but we do have the option for a smaller circle, a mixed opening. We also have a lift opening, so we don't ever want any wildlife to get into a container and not be able to get out. So that is also another very popular option within park settings, is it's a magnet lift option. So there's no wildlife that could actually get in. So again, this is at a 30-gallon capacity, extremely easy to service, optional locks, restricted openings, color finishes, you name it, we can definitely develop something for your collection needs to increase those diversion rates. As well as we do have other containers that are maybe more so closer to buildings, cityscapes, things like that, that are within our product line that I'll just quickly touch on. For example, this is our Euro. It is at a 30-gallon capacity, it's lockable. Actually very, very popular within a school setting. You can actually connect both of these. We've had schools that just kind of connect them to a pole and have two together as well. So it's outdoor rated, as well as the UV protected, rusting, all that good stuff for longevity. As well as I know for especially a cityscape, I know we're talking mostly parks, but I just wanted to kind of showcase this container. Bear with me. This is our Portland container. Very versatile in regards to single, doubles, triples, as well as we have a dome aspect, or a dome lid that's available as well. So just really depending on your specific area, if you get a lot of rain, if you're in Arizona and barely get any rain, really just kind of depending on your placement, but these are available as well. The single is at a 45-gallon and then changes within our doubles and our triples. So I hope that you find some interest and benefits of our outdoor containers. We'd love to hear from you. I also do like to touch on, we do have a lot of containers that would be beneficial for indoor, a public facility for the washrooms per se. So we do have a lot in our product line that could fit into that aspect as well. So not really having to go to multiple vendors to source, both needs. So we do have a lot of products that would be utilized within your facility indoor space. For example, this is our popular Evolve unit. I'm not sure how, this is right here. It is at a 10-gallon capacity. It's actually plastic, but has the look of a stainless steel brushed pewter. But we do have connectors for a magnet as well, so they can sit flush against a wall, just not to take up a lot of placement, and just have those options available as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. As Mackenzie mentioned in chat, if anyone has any questions for Sarah regarding Busch Systems products, please feel free to send her an email to sarah@buschsystems.com. Thank you for attending our webinar today, and we hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.